Hey there and welcome on back. As always, I'm Carl with Target's Attitude, absent-minded professor of knives and all things sharp. Sit on back, grab your pens and papers. Class about to begin. Today we're launching a new series, Knife Basics, what your daddy forgot to teach you. Yes, this series is designed to answer basic questions about knives, but we'll be getting into some advanced things too, so not only the newcomer to the world of knives will find some use in this video series, hopefully those of you who have been around for years and have an extensive collection will find something interesting in it as well. Whole thing came because on a video I did on knives for bug out bags, I had a couple people ask me some questions. So, let's start off. For our first class, we're going to look at the Tang. And no, I'm not talking about the orange stuff that went to the moon. I'm talking about a knife tang. So what is a tang? Well, if you look it up on Wikipedia, they tell you that it's the unsharpened portion of a tool blade that connects with a shaft or handle. Okay. Sorry about the interruption. My son was getting a little excited there. But, anyway, so an unsharpened portion of tool blade. Kind of sounds like gobbledygook, doesn't it? Well, if you look at a knife, any knife, and you'll find that you've got the blade itself, which of course extends into, is what you use to cut things with. But, well, here, rather big knife to demonstrate with, but you know, it'll work. Now look at this, and you immediately see the blade here, part you use to cut with. But what holds it to the handle? In this case, we've got a hidden tang, and we can tell by the screws that go through the handle into the tang that it is a full-length tang. Basically, all it is a continuation of the blade down into the handle to provide a good connection. As let's face it, if start swinging this thing at something trying to chop through some heavy brush or trying to chop some wood up to start your fire on a camp, if you don't have a good connection between the blade and the handle, sooner or later the handle's going to come off, and you got basically a useless hunk of metal with a sharp edge on it. Not much good. And hey, tangs come in a wide variety of things. And yes, before we go too much further, pocket knives do have tangs as well, though some people will tell you that they don't. Back when all we had was more traditional pen knives, wasn't considered to be a tang, but for instance on this one, this right here is considered to be part of the tang. As you can see, it's a continuation of the blade, goes through the handle, and in this case, it allows you to open the blade up by pushing downward pressure on it. But obviously this is a pocket knife. Most of your connection is at the pivot point right inside, and that tang is really just an extension of the blade to make it easier to open. Tangs on sheath knives, a little different, and there's a variety of styles. So let's take a look at a chart that I stole off of All Knives Matters. We'll see what we can explain on that. Okay, so here we go with the various types of tangs. As you can see, there's a wide variety. What they're calling a full-length tang, I normally refer to as a through tang, because this part right here is normally a pommel that screws onto the tang, or that the tang comes all the way through so that it can be peened over. Difference between a full-length tang and a half rat tail tang is, as you can see, the half rat tail narrows down and is normally a rod for the last little bit, with the front portion flat. Full rat tail just got that rod the whole way through. Got what's called a push tang, where it just goes maybe halfway into the handle, and a 3/4 tang that goes, as the name implies, 3/4 of the way into the handle. These are also called hidden tangs because you can't see the tang from the outside of the handle. Of these, obviously the full-length tang is going to be the strongest because it goes the entire length of the handle. For all practical purposes, the tang is the handle, and the handle itself is just a wrapping around it to make it fit into your hand more comfortably. Push tang is probably the worst, because you've only got a third to half of the handle length with tang in it. That can come apart on you. It provides a weakness, to be blunt, that sooner or later can and probably will give way if you're working hard. If you really have to have a partial tang, I'd rather go for 3/4 tang. Now you've also got over here, again, okay, hidden tang. It's called a stick tang here. The only difference between a stick tang and a rat tail tang is that this style of knife doesn't have a pommel. Other than that, it's exactly the same thing as either your full length of any of these three. You have a partial tang on this style, just like the partial push tang here. It doesn't go all the way through the handle. It can cause some problems. Now you've got full tangs, and you've actually got two styles of full tangs. Most of the time when we talk about full tang, we mean where it goes all the way through, and you can actually see it if you turn the knife on the side and look down at the handle material. The handle is two slabs of something on either side of the tang. This is the strongest possible combination you can get because it's all one piece of metal, and again, this part is actually your handle. What we consider the handle is just padding added to it to make it easier to hold on to. Skeletonized tang, pretty much the same thing as a full tang, but they're looking to lighten up the knife. Maybe the blade is short enough that the handle is going to be too heavy and the knife's going to be unbalanced if they don't do this. Or maybe they're looking for something that's going to be forward heavy to make it easier to chop with. Either way, the whole point of the skeletonized tang is to put big holes in it without disturbing the actual integrity or strength, to lighten, remove material and make it lighter, all in all. This can be tricky. Most people have learned how to do it well. It's almost like the steel girders of a bridge. As long as they have the stresses going properly, everything's fine. The bridge holds together. Or in this case, the knife holds together. If they've miscalculated the stresses, you got a possible failure here. But as long as you're going with the reputable company, you probably don't have anything to worry about. As I say, stick tang, I most often call a through tang, because it does go all the way through. I know people will argue with me and say that it's not a through tang unless the end is peened over. And yeah, I can understand that argument. And technically they're correct. Narrowing tang is just the tang narrows as it goes into the handle. And like most partial tangs, it doesn't go all the way through. Now this normally is not a problem, because most of the time they go far enough in the handle that you're getting full support for the blade. Because let's face it, if you look at this, your hand is basically circling the part that actually has the tang in it. Partial tang, only part of the tang is actually in your hand. So you've got a definite possibility of something coming part here. Definitely doesn't have the same amount of strength. There are some perfectly good knives out there with partial tangs, just as there are good knives with push tangs, but I gotta admit, I just don't trust them. I'm probably being parochial in that view. I know people tell me I'm being silly, but I just don't trust them. I've had too many of them fail on me. And of course, the other types of tangs you got is the one that went to the moon and Wu-Tang. So, give you a bit better example of what I'm talking about when I say full tang. Again, you can see the screws where they attach the handle to the tang. But if you look down here, see the blade just keeps right on going all the way through on both sides. See what I mean about how the handle scales are actually just sandwiched on either side of the tang. So the tang itself is actually the handle. The handle scales just make it fit your hand so you don't lose control of it. And it's all the way through, even if you start to undo the lanyard on this one, you can see it all the way straight through. For a hidden tang, let's get out the Kershaw Camp 10 again. Again, see, you can't see the tang anywhere through the handle. So this would be a hidden tang. You can't see it. But you can still tell it's a full tang because of where the screws are positioned. Being able to look at more than that, a little difficult. With some knives, for instance, the classic K-bar fighting knife, which has a leather stack handle. If you notice, there's a pommel on the end. That pommel is, at least in the case of the K-bar, is normally screwed onto the end of the tang with a little bit of epoxy to keep it from coming loose. That holds the handle on the tang. It's a through tang because the tang goes all the way through into the pommel. Well, okay, yeah, as I said before, there are some people who would argue with me on that. They say it would have to be something more along the lines of, say, a Blackjack Model 7, where you can see where the tang has actually come through the pommel, and they've either peened it over, or they've put a nut on the end, a pommel nut on the end, to hold everything together. But all in all, that's the long and short of what a tang is. I know it's a little boring, but it explains what the term means, lets you know what people are talking about when they start throwing it around, and it gives you an understanding of why it really does make a difference. In the meantime, I'll wish you luck. I hope you come back next week. If you've got any questions you'd like to ask me, don't hesitate to put them down there in the comments. Any questions I get, I'll try to answer. And in the meantime, take care of yourself. Putting up a few items for you. Got 2 videos here that you might find interesting. And of course, you can always hit the target over here to subscribe to my channel. You take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week. Bye now.